Hi guys, welcome to our herbology class for week 5. Today we're going to be talking about prosperity, travel, and wisdom plants. And please do bear with me. I know I tell you all every class, but I always like to give you a reminder. I do have a toddler. As of right now, she is very wound up and very, very loud, so I apologize if it's distracting in any way. There's not much I can do about it. She's just 2, so just bear with me. Okay, let's go ahead and get into some class updates real quick. I'm still working on getting us all caught up. Doing pretty well. We're almost up to date now. So as I said in the last class, from here on out, the material is going to be pretty light. We're going to be focusing on just identifying some plants that correspond to each magical property. So not a whole lot of work from this point out. We've done most of the heavy work that we needed to do at the beginning of the semester. So things should be pretty light as we finish this semester. All right, so this class is gonna function the same way that last week's class did. We're just gonna start rolling through these magical properties and discussing the herbs and spices associated with them. All right, so let's start with prosperity. It could also be wealth. Some people refer to it as wealth or prosperity. Either one, it's the same thing. So this first one is cinnamon. We talked about this in the last class. Again, not easily grown outside certain climates. It's best to purchase it. If you're more interested in being able to work with the herb for as long as you can always get it in the stick form and grind it so that you're able to work with it for longer. The next one is spearmint. This one is extremely easy to grow and harvest. A really good potted plant. Great for any kind of beginner plant parents. And it's pretty widely used. So this spearmint's a good one. The next one is ginger, and ginger is actually best grown in tropical climates. It doesn't really grow as well in our U.S. climates. With that being said, you can normally purchase the roots at your grocery store, and that gives you a little bit more time to work with it. Again, like we've discussed before, we like to work with the herbs or spices for as long as we can, just to make sure that we're able to infuse them with the magical properties we want them to have. And ginger is used in a lot of different ways. It could be sliced, minced, ground, just a lot of different ways. And like I've said before, you just reference your spell to see which way you should be using it. Okay, next is basil. I think we might have talked about basil last week. I'm not 100% sure. But again, basil is another super easy one. Great for beginner plant parents. This one's really good as a windowsill plant. And this one can be used ground or dried. Either way, this is a good one. Basil's a good one. For prosperity, the next one is dill. Dill is another one that's really easy to grow, also used as an herb or a spice. Okay, the next one is chamomile for prosperity. There's a lot of different pronunciations for this, but it is most commonly used in teas, and it's pretty widely available. This one also has a lot of different uses. It's not just secluded to prosperity. There's a lot of different uses for it. Okay, let's move on to travel herbs and spices. The first one is caraway, and it can be used in a lot of different ways. You can use the flowers, the seeds, or you can even use it ground. It's not very common, actually. This isn't very widely used, but it's fairly simple to grow. Okay, next is mustard, and I just love this flower. It's just so pretty. This one's pretty easy to grow and also used in different forms, the flower, the seeds, and ground. Okay, next for travel is fennel. And fennel is typically grown in Mediterranean areas or sometimes near coastal or riverbeds. It's used in many different forms. Honestly, it really doesn't grow super well in the U.S., but you can occasionally get it to thrive, but it's a more difficult one to grow. That's one that you might be better off just purchasing. Okay, next for travel is parsley, and parsley is a super easy plant to grow, a great starter plant for anyone that's just starting out, and it's also really easy to harvest, and it's also got a lot of different properties. Okay, let's talk about wisdom plants. The first one is marjoram. This one's pretty easy to grow. It works great as a potted plant as well. Easy to grow, easy to harvest. Next is cumin. And cumin tends to grow better in warmer climates, especially like in the Middle Eastern areas. It's where it's pretty popular. And it can be used as seeds or it can be ground. Okay, next for wisdom is thyme. Thyme is another really popular one. extremely easy to grow, extremely easy to harvest. This one works really good for potted plants as well if you're if you have an indoor garden. Okay, and parsley we've already discussed in this class, but parsley also works for wisdom. Same with basil, we've also discussed in this class, but another good one for wisdom, as well as dill, also good for wisdom. Okay, guys, so I know this one was super, super fast, but these classes, as we're finishing up these last few weeks, these are going to get faster and faster. We don't have a whole lot of material to cover. We've covered a lot of the basic stuff already, so now we're just kind of talking about which herbs work for which magical property. So this will be pretty fast from here out. We don't have any focus questions this week. As we did last week, instead of doing focus questions, I'd really like you to just take some time to familiarize yourself with the appearance of these plants, herbs, and spices, and just kind of get used to what they can be used for. We will have a quiz over them, but not really going to do any focus questions. All right, so as we do every class, what to expect for next week, still catching up. We are almost completely caught up. I believe we are just one class behind at this point, and even that's just barely. We're just about there. So after this, you can expect that we'll be on track and ready to finish this semester. So that's all I've got for you today, guys. Thanks.